The crimson dust of Heatscar settled on everything, like a jealous lover refusing to let go. It coated the curved edge of Saria's meteoric blade, dulling its sheen, but not its deadly purpose. The jade-skinned warrior crouched atop the sandstone ridge, her eyes, twin orbs of amber fire, scanning the canyon below. "There you are," she whispered, spotting movement. A lone figure navigating the narrow passages with unexpected grace for someone supposedly running for his life. Marcus. The name tasted bitter on her tongue. Former bandit king of the Eastern Wastes, responsible for raids that had left 3 settlements in ruins. And yet, according to intel, he had simply walked away from his crew one day, vanishing into the Badlands without explanation. Such dishonor could not stand, especially when the matriarch had personally assigned Saria to bring back his head. Saria checked her blade's neural interface. The ancient technology of her ancestors hummed in response, connecting to the microfilaments embedded in her forearm. The blade was an extension of herself, her pride, her duty, her very identity among the Cinnabar tribe. "No escape this time," she murmured, launching herself from the ridge. She landed with practiced silence, the augmented muscle fibers in her legs absorbing the impact. 3 heartbeats later, she was sprinting through the canyon, following the trail of disturbed dust. Her tribe's tech might be centuries old, but it had evolved alongside their fighting techniques into something unique, neither fully ancient nor modern, but deadly effective. The gap between them closed quickly, too quickly. Saria narrowed her eyes. He wasn't running fast enough, almost as if the ambush never came. Instead, Marcus simply stopped at a dead end, turned around, and sat down cross-legged on a flat rock. His expression was frustratingly serene as he watched her approach. "Figured you'd catch up eventually," he said. Voice surprisingly gentle for a man with his reputation. No weapons were visible on his person, though his weather-beaten duster could conceal many things. "The famous Saria of the Cinnabar Blade Dance. Your reputation precedes you." Saria circled him warily, blade extended. "Stand up. Face your judgment like a warrior." "I'm comfortable here. Thanks." He scratched his stubbled chin. "Beautiful blade. Meteoric steel with neural augmentation. Your tribe's craftsmanship is legendary." "Silence!" Saria's patience evaporated. With lightning speed, she closed the distance, pressing her blade against his throat. The man didn't even flinch. "Any last words?" Marcus looked directly into her eyes, and to her astonishment, smiled. "Yeah," he said calmly. "You're holding it wrong." The statement was so unexpected, so absurd, that Saria's concentration faltered for just a fraction of a second. It was enough. In one fluid motion, Marcus shifted his weight, one hand gently deflecting her wrist while the other pressed against her elbow. Before she could react, she found herself stumbling forward, her prized blade clattering against the canyon floor. Impossible. No one had ever disarmed her, not since she was 12 and first bonded with her blade. Saria spun around, dropping into a defensive stance. But Marcus hadn't moved to attack. He remained seated, now holding her blade, examining it with genuine appreciation. "Beautiful balance," he commented, testing its weight. "But it's a shame." "What is?" Saria growled, calculating the fastest way to reclaim her weapon and separate his head from his shoulders. "That you've mastered all the forms without understanding the essence." He flipped the blade, offering it back to her, handle first. "Here, I have no use for it." Suspecting a trap, Saria snatched the blade and immediately pressed it back against his throat. "I don't know what game you're playing, but it ends now. The matriarch wants your head, and I'm going to deliver it." "Before you do," Marcus said, still infuriatingly calm, "would you like to know why your famous blade dance failed against a seated, unarmed opponent?" "It didn't fail," Saria hissed, pressing the blade harder, drawing a thin line of blood. "You're at my mercy." Am I? Again that smile. Strike then. Complete your mission. Saria tensed, ready to deliver the killing blow. But something held her back. Curiosity, perhaps, or wounded pride demanding answers before satisfaction. "You have 10 seconds to explain yourself," she said. "I don't need 10. You're gripping too tightly. Your knuckles are white. You're fighting the blade's natural balance instead of working with it. That's why I could deflect it with minimal effort." He shrugged. "You're skilled, no question, but you're fighting yourself as much as your enemies." "Ridiculous," Saria spat. But something in his words struck a nerve. She had been experiencing wrist pain after extended practice sessions. The tribal healers had found no cause. "If I'm right," Marcus continued, "the connection between your neural interface and the blade feels slightly off, doesn't it? Like there's a delay, or a resistance you have to push through." Saria's eyes widened. How could he know? "That's what happens when you try to control something that's meant to flow through you," he explained. "I can show you the correct way. It would take just minutes to demonstrate." "You think I'd trust the word of a bandit king? A deserter?" "Former bandit king. And I didn't desert. I evolved." His gaze hardened for the first time. "Just like your tribe will need to evolve if you want to survive what's coming." "What's that supposed to mean?" "The Technarch Alliance is expanding eastward. Your tribal territory will be directly in their path within a season." The Technarch, a coalition of AI overlords, and their human servants who had claimed the fertile western regions decades ago. Rumors of their expansion had reached the tribe, but nothing concrete. "How would you know their movements?" "Because I've been tracking them for months. It's why I left my crew." He gestured at the canyon walls. "These Badlands are the last free territories on Heatscar. If the Cinnabar and other tribes fall, humanity loses its last refuge from artificial control." Saria hesitated. The man seemed sincere, but trusting him felt like betrayal of her mission. "The matriarch doesn't negotiate with criminals." "I'm not asking for negotiation. Kill me if you must. But first, let me show you what you're missing with that blade. If I'm wrong, you've lost nothing but a few minutes before completing your mission." Saria weighed her options. Her pride demanded immediate action, but her duty to the tribe required gathering all possible intelligence about threats. And there was that nagging feeling that he was right about her technique. 5 minutes, she conceded, lowering the blade slightly. "Then I decide if you still die today." Marcus nodded and slowly stood. "Fair enough. First, I need you to—" His movement was sudden but not aggressive. A simple step to the side that somehow coincided with a loose rock shifting under Saria's foot. She stumbled, off balance for just a moment. It was enough. Marcus moved like water, seeming to flow around her guard. Once again, her blade was gone, but this time, so were the twin daggers concealed at her lower back. He stepped away, holding all 3 weapons. Lesson 1. True mastery comes from relaxation, not tension. Fury and embarrassment burned through Saria. Twice disarmed by an apparently unarmed man. The matriarch would have her cleaning waste pits for a decade if word got out. "Return my weapons," she demanded, her voice dangerously low. "In a moment. First, take a deep breath and actually listen. Your muscles are so tense that your movements become predictable. You telegraph your intentions before you even move. I am a blade dancer of the Cinnabar tribe. I have trained since childhood. To follow forms and techniques passed down for generations." "Yes," Marcus interrupted. "But somewhere along the way, your tribe forgot why those forms were created in the first place." He twirled her main blade with casual expertise. "These weapons were designed to channel neural impulses smoothly, to become extensions of thought rather than tools forced to obey." Despite her anger, Saria found herself listening. There was something hypnotic about the way the blade moved in his hand, effortless, like watching water flow downhill. "The micro-tremors in your arm," he continued. "They're from fighting the neural interface. You're trying to impose your will completely, rather than establishing a dialogue with the blade. Weapons don't have wills, Saria objected. No, but they have optimal paths of movement based on their construction and the physics of combat. The neural interface was designed to help you feel those paths, not override them. He held out her blade. Try again, but this time, loosen your grip. Feel the weight and balance. Don't command, collaborate. Warily, Saria took her blade. The familiar hum of the neural connection re-established itself. But following his instruction, she consciously relaxed her grip. Now, move through your first form, but half speed. Feeling foolish, but committed, Saria began the opening sequence of the blade dance. To her surprise, the blade felt different, lighter somehow, more responsive. Good, Marcus nodded. Now, close your eyes and continue. So you can attack me? I'm not a fool. If I wanted to harm you, I've had ample opportunity, he pointed out reasonably. Close your eyes. Trust the connection. Reluctantly, Saria closed her eyes and continued the form. Without visual input, she became acutely aware of how the blade seemed to anticipate her intentions, moving with her rather than being directed. That's it. Marcus's voice came from her left. Feel how it wants to move? That's the dialogue I mentioned. When she opened her eyes, Marcus was holding out her daggers. Your 5 minutes are up. Will I die today, blade dancer? Saria took her daggers, considering. The man had disarmed her twice but returned her weapons both times. He claimed to have intelligence about the Technarch that could be vital to her tribe's survival. And he knew things about her ancestral weapons that even the tribe's master smiths had never mentioned. You will return with me to face the matriarch, she decided. She will determine your fate. Marcus smiled. Fair enough, though I suspect neither of us will receive the welcome you're expecting. The journey back to the Cinnabar encampment took 2 days. They traveled in relative silence, Saria keeping a watchful eye on her prisoner, though Marcus made no attempt to escape. Several times, she caught him watching her practice her forms in the evening, occasionally offering small suggestions that, irritatingly, improved her performance. The Cinnabar encampment sprawled across a plateau, overlooking the vast red desert. Ancient generation ships, long since grounded and repurposed, formed the central structures, surrounded by a hodgepodge of smaller dwellings constructed from salvaged materials and local stone. As they approached the main gate, Saria noticed an unusual level of activity. Warriors were reinforcing the perimeter defenses, and scanner drones circled overhead in greater numbers than normal. The guards recognized her immediately, but their expressions were grim. The matriarch awaits in the council chamber, one informed her, eyeing Marcus suspiciously. Your prisoner will be taken to the holding cells. He comes with me, Saria insisted. He has information about the Technarch that the matriarch needs to hear. The guards exchanged glances, but ultimately conceded to her rank as a blade dancer. The council chamber occupied the upper level of the largest generation ship. Once the command bridge, it now served as the heart of tribal governance. The matriarch, Crimson, sat upon a throne fashioned from salvaged ship components and meteorite fragments. Despite being over 70, her posture remained rigidly upright, her weathered face a map of hard decisions made over decades of leadership. Saria! The matriarch's voice crackled like static. I see you return with a prisoner rather than a trophy. Explain. Saria knelt, head bowed. Matriarch, this man claims to have vital intelligence about Technarch movements. They are allegedly expanding toward our territories. We are already aware, Crimson replied coldly. 3 days ago, our western outpost went silent. The scout team found nothing but empty buildings and blood in the dust. Saria's head snapped up. An attack? Why wasn't I recalled? Because your mission was deemed essential. The matriarch's gaze shifted to Marcus. Though I'm beginning to question that assessment. You were sent to eliminate a threat, not bring it into our home. Marcus stepped forward, ignoring the guards who tensed around him. Matriarch Crimson, I come with respect and warning. The Technarch aren't merely raiding. They're systematically absorbing territories for a larger purpose. And how would a bandit king come by such strategic information? Crimson demanded. Because before I was a bandit king, I was a systems analyst for the Southern Coalition. Before they fell to the Technarch 5 years ago. He held her gaze. I know how they think, how they plan. This isn't random expansion. They're creating a specific defensive perimeter. Your tribe sits on what they consider a key tactical position. Murmurs spread through the assembled council members. The matriarch silenced them with a raised hand. If what you say is true, then Saria's failure to eliminate you is even more concerning. A blade dancer, unable to complete her mission against a single, unarmed opponent? All eyes turned to Saria, who felt heat rising in her cheeks. He was not as expected, matriarch. Explain. Saria struggled to find words that wouldn't sound like excuses. He demonstrated knowledge of our blade techniques that I've never encountered. He disarmed me using principles that seemed to originate from our own traditions, yet moved beyond them. The matriarch's eyes narrowed. Show me. Saria drew her blade, but before she could demonstrate, Marcus spoke. With respect, matriarch, what Saria experienced can't simply be shown. It must be felt. The neural interface your weapons use, it's capable of far more than your current techniques utilize. You claim to know our ways better than we do. Crimson's voice was dangerous. Not better, Marcus replied carefully. Differently. Your traditions preserved an incredible technology through dark times, but preservation sometimes comes at the cost of innovation. The matriarch studied him for a long moment, then made a slight gesture. Immediately, 2 guards flanked Saria, seizing her arms. What is this? Saria demanded, struggling against their grip. Failure cannot be tolerated, especially now, Crimson declared. You will surrender your blade and enter isolation for purification rituals. Perhaps in time, you may earn back your position. Matriarch, please, Saria protested. I brought valuable intelligence. You brought excuses, and a prisoner who spouts dangerous ideas. The matriarch rose from her throne. The council will interrogate him properly about these Technarch movements. You are dismissed from your duties until further notice. As the guards began to drag her away, Marcus called out, There's another option. Everyone paused. The matriarch arched an eyebrow. Speak quickly, outsider. Let Saria train with me. 1 week. If I can't improve her skills beyond anything your tribe has seen, then execute us both. Impossible, Crimson scoffed. Our blade techniques are sacred, perfected over generations. And yet they failed against me, Marcus pointed out. Imagine them failing against Technarch enforcers. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Finally, the matriarch spoke. 3 days, no more. You will be confined to the southern training grounds, under guard. If Saria shows no improvement, the punishment for both of you will be severe. Agreed, Marcus said before Saria could object. As the guards escorted them out, Saria hissed. Are you insane? You've sentenced us both to death. Marcus smiled that infuriating smile again. Only if I'm wrong about you. And I'm rarely wrong about people with your potential. The southern training grounds were little more than a flat expanse of packed earth, bordered by weathered stone outcroppings. Guards positioned themselves at a distance, watching warily as Saria paced in frustration. 3 days to save our lives with blade techniques you claim to understand better than my ancestors, she fumed. I should have killed you in the canyon. Probably, Marcus agreed, calmly removing his duster and folding it neatly. Underneath, he wore simple, worn clothing that nonetheless showed signs of careful repair. But you didn't, because you sensed the truth in what I was saying. He was right, which only irritated her more. Where did you learn about our blade technology? It's sacred knowledge, never shared with outsiders. Your tribe wasn't the only one to escape Earth with neural technology, Marcus explained, stretching his arms above his head. The Southern Coalition preserved similar systems, though they applied them differently. When the Technarch came, I salvaged what knowledge I could before fleeing north. And became a bandit, Saria added pointedly. Survival first, morality second, he shrugged. Not a philosophy I'm proud of, but it kept me alive long enough to realize I needed to do more than just survive. Marcus approached a weapons rack left by the guards and selected a practice blade, identical in weight and balance to Saria's real one, but without the lethal edge or neural interface. We'll start with the basics, he said. The problem isn't your technique, it's your relationship with the blade. For the next several hours, Marcus broke down every element of blade handling that Saria had learned since childhood. To her increasing frustration, he had her perform the simplest movements repeatedly, constantly adjusting her grip, stance, and breathing. This is pointless, she finally snapped, throwing down the practice blade. We're wasting precious time on beginner exercises while the Technarch advances and the Matriarch prepares our execution. Pick it up, Marcus said quietly. No, show me something useful or... Pick it up. His voice had changed, carrying an authority that stopped her mid-sentence. You want to save your life? Your tribe? Then trust the process. Grudgingly, Saria retrieved the blade. Now, Marcus continued, close your eyes and tell me what you feel when you hold your weapon. I feel like I'm wasting time on mystical nonsense, she muttered, but complied. I feel the weight, the balance point just forward of the hilt, the texture of the grip. Deeper. When you connect with your real blade, what do you feel through the neural interface? Saria concentrated. Power, control. It becomes part of me, responding to my commands. And that, Marcus said, is precisely the problem. You see the relationship as one of command and control, master and tool. He circled her slowly. But the neural interface wasn't designed for domination. It was designed for partnership. He placed his hands on her shoulders, gently adjusting her posture. Your ancestors understood this. The blade dance isn't about controlling the blade. It's about creating harmony between warrior and weapon. When you force your will upon the neural connection, you create resistance, like trying to force a river to flow uphill. Despite her skepticism, something in his words resonated with Saria. She had always approached her training as a battle for mastery, over her body, her emotions, her weapons. The idea of partnership rather than dominance was foreign, almost heretical. Try again, Marcus instructed. But this time, instead of commanding the blade to move, invite it to move with you. It's an inanimate object, Saria objected, though with less conviction than before. Is it? The neural interface creates a feedback loop between your nervous system and the blade's sensors. In a very real sense, the blade can feel you as much as you can feel it. Reluctantly, Saria closed her eyes again and tried to approach the exercise differently. Rather than imposing her will, she imagined the blade as a dance partner, following her lead, but contributing its own momentum and balance. To her surprise, even the practice blade seemed to move more fluidly, requiring less force to direct its path. When she opened her eyes, Marcus was watching with approval. Better. Now let's try with your actual blade. The neural connection sparked to life as Saria gripped her true weapon. Following Marcus's guidance, she consciously shifted her approach, allowing the feedback sensations to flow rather than controlling them rigidly. The difference was immediate and startling. The blade moved with newfound grace, the micro-tremors in her arm vanishing completely. Even more surprising, she found she could execute forms with less mental effort, as though the blade anticipated her intentions. This is different, she admitted, executing a complex attack sequence with unprecedented smoothness. This is just the beginning, Marcus replied. By the end of our 3 days, you'll be moving in ways the matriarch has never seen. But first, you need to unlearn some deeply ingrained habits. The remainder of the day passed in intense training. Marcus proved to be a demanding but insightful teacher, deconstructing flaws in Saria's technique that even her tribal instructors had never identified. By nightfall, she was exhausted but buzzing with the excitement of discovery. As they sat beside a small fire, guards maintaining their distance in the darkness, Saria finally asked the question that had been bothering her all day. Why help me? You could have escaped in the canyon. You chose to come here, knowing the risk. Marcus stared into the flames. Because the Technarch represents something I cannot abide. The reduction of humanity to mere resources for artificial minds. Your tribe, for all its rigidity, preserves something essential: human choice, human culture. You mentioned the Southern Coalition fell 5 years ago. Were you there? A shadow crossed his face. Yes, I was part of the defense network. We thought our technology was superior, and in many ways, it was. But the Technarch doesn't just attack physically. They infiltrate systems, corrupt data, turn your own infrastructure against you. He looked up at the stars. I watched an entire society collapse in weeks, not through violence, but through surrender. People simply giving up, accepting Technarch rule as inevitable. By the time physical resistance organized, it was too late. Is that why you became a bandit? Revenge? Initially, yes. Raid Technarch outposts, disrupt their supply lines. He smiled grimly. But I quickly realized I was just an annoyance to them, not a threat. To truly oppose them requires more than violence. It requires an alternative vision, a different way of being. Saria considered his words. And you think our tribe could provide that alternative? Your tribe preserves ancient knowledge that could be vital. But knowledge preserved like a museum piece isn't enough. It needs to live, to evolve. He gestured to her blade. What we did today, that's just scratching the surface of what's possible. His conviction was compelling. Saria had to admit. There was a clarity to his purpose that made her own devotion to tribal traditions seem hollow by comparison. Get some rest, Marcus advised. Tomorrow will be more challenging. He was right. The second day of training pushed Saria to her limits and beyond. Marcus introduced concepts that seemed to contradict everything she'd been taught. Techniques that required momentarily relinquishing control rather than maintaining it. Movements that utilize the environment rather than imposed upon it. Combat isn't about dominating space, he explained, as they practiced among the stone outcroppings. It's about harmonizing with it. The terrain, the weather, your opponent's energy. These aren't obstacles to overcome. They're resources to incorporate. To demonstrate, he had her attack him repeatedly while he stood with his back to a large boulder. Each time, he seemed to flow around her assault, using the stone's presence to redirect her momentum. You're fighting two opponents, he pointed out, after she crashed into the boulder for the third time. Me and the environment. But I'm treating the environment as my ally. By the end of the day, Saria had begun to grasp the fundamentals of what Marcus called water principle. The art of adaptability over rigidity. Flow over force. Her body ached from the unfamiliar movements, but her mind was alight with possibilities. That night, as they again sat by the fire, a commotion at the perimeter drew their attention. One of the guards approached, expression grim. News from the Western Front, he reported. Another settlement has gone silent. The matriarch has called a council meeting. Saria rose immediately. We should attend. The guard shook his head. Your confinement remains in effect. The matriarch will inform you of any decisions that concern you. After he withdrew, Saria paced anxiously. They're getting closer. We should be preparing defenses, not wasting time here. This isn't wasted time, Marcus countered. What I'm teaching you could be the difference between survival and extinction for your people. Bold claim from a former bandit. Former analyst, he corrected. The bandit was just a cover, a way to move freely through territories where my knowledge would have made me a target. Saria stopped pacing. What aren't you telling me? There's more to your interest in our tribe than opposing the Technarch. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Your neural interface technology, he finally said. It's unique, different from what the Southern Coalition developed. It creates a true symbiotic relationship rather than just a control system. And this matters because the Technarch's primary advantage is their ability to interface directly with technology. Humans using their systems become little more than biological components, controlled rather than controlling. He pointed to her blade. But your technology offers a different paradigm. Not control, but partnership. It could be the key to developing systems the Technarch can't simply assimilate. Saria absorbed this information slowly. You're saying our primitive tribal weapons might be more advanced than Technarch systems? Not more advanced, fundamentally different. And that difference could be crucial. His expression grew serious. The third principle I need to teach you addresses this directly. It's why I insisted on 3 days. The third day dawned with an ominous red sky. Dust storms were brewing in the distance, but the training ground remained clear for now. Today, we integrate everything, Marcus announced. The first principle, relaxation over tension. The second, environmental harmony over domination. Now for the third, and most important, intention over action. That makes no sense, Saria objected. Without action, intention is meaningless. Is it? Marcus retrieved a small device from his duster pocket, a simple metal cube with glowing circuit lines. The neural interface in your blade doesn't just read muscle movements. It reads intention, the electrical patterns in your brain that precede physical action. He placed the cube on a flat stone. This is a training device from the Southern Coalition. It responds to focused intention. Move it without touching it. Saria stared at him incredulously. That's impossible. With your current understanding, yes. But the same neural pathways that connect to your blade can, with practice, extend your intention beyond your physical form. He nodded encouragingly. Try. Feeling foolish, Saria focused on the cube, imagining it sliding across the stone. Nothing happened. You're still thinking about moving your arm to move the cube, Marcus observed. Bypass that step. Direct intention without physical action. For nearly an hour, Saria attempted the seemingly impossible task. Frustration mounted until she was ready to give up entirely. This is absurd, she finally snapped. My neural interface connects to my blade, not to random objects. Your neural interface enhances what's already possible for the human mind, Marcus corrected. The technology doesn't create the connection. It amplifies it. Seeing her skepticism, he changed tactics. When you use your blade, there's a moment before physical movement when you decide to strike, correct? A moment of pure intention? Saria nodded reluctantly. That moment is what we're isolating and expanding. He guided her through a series of meditative exercises, focusing on the sensation of the neural connection without physical movement. By midday, Saria had managed to make the cube tremble slightly. By afternoon, she could slide it short distances. The effort left her mentally exhausted but exhilarated. This is just the beginning, Marcus explained. With practice, you could extend your neural interface connection to any compatible technology. Imagine disabling Technarch systems without physical contact. The implications were staggering. If what Marcus suggested was possible, it would transform the tribe's defensive capabilities entirely. As the day waned, Saria demonstrated her progress, integrating all 3 principles into her blade work. The difference was remarkable. Her movements fluid, yet precise, each strike flowing naturally from the last. the neural connection humming with unprecedented clarity. "Tomorrow, we face the matriarch," Marcus said as they completed the final exercises. "Are you ready to show her what you've learned?" Before Saria could answer, the perimeter guards suddenly tensed, weapons raised. A moment later, the reason became clear. A tribal messenger was sprinting toward them, face streaked with dust and blood. "Attack!" the messenger gasped as he reached them. The Technarch, main encampment, broke through defenses. Saria grabbed the man's shoulders. "How? When?" "Infiltration unit, disguised as traitors, took control of our defense grid." He coughed, dust rattling in his lungs. "The matriarch orders all warriors to the central plaza." Saria turned to the guards. "We need to go, now." For once, they didn't argue. The scene at the main encampment was chaotic. Civilians rushed to shelter while warriors assembled in defensive formations. Smoke rose from several structures, and the distinctive whine of Technarch pulse weapons echoed through the plateau. The matriarch stood on a raised platform, issuing orders with calm efficiency despite the crisis. When she spotted Saria and Marcus approaching with the guards, her expression hardened. "So, the prisoner returns in our hour of need," she remarked coldly. "Convenient timing." "Matriarch, the Technarch attack proves everything I warned about," Marcus insisted. "Let me help. I know their tactics, their weaknesses. And I should trust the word of an outsider when outsiders have just breached our defenses." She turned to Saria. "Your confinement is suspended temporarily. Join the Eastern Defense Line. The Technarch are attempting to secure our water reclamation facility." "Matriarch, wait." Saria stepped forward. "Marcus has taught me techniques that could be crucial against the Technarch. At least let me demonstrate before dismissing his knowledge." Crimson's patience was clearly wearing thin, but the chaos around them demanded immediate solutions. "You have 1 minute. Impress me." Saria drew her blade, took a deep breath, and closed her eyes momentarily. When she opened them, she moved with a fluidity that caused murmurs among the watching warriors. Her blade no longer seemed like a separate entity, but a natural extension of her body. More impressively, she incorporated the surrounding environment, using walls, debris, even the movements of nearby people as elements in her dance. For the finale, she extended her hand toward a small Technarch probe that had been captured and disabled. Focusing her intention through her neural interface, she caused the device to rise several inches off the ground before gently setting it down. The matriarch's eyes widened slightly, the closest thing to shock Saria had ever seen on her face. "That's impossible," Crimson whispered. "The interface doesn't work on external technology." "It always could," Marcus explained, stepping forward. "Your ancestors designed it that way, but the knowledge was lost or suppressed over generations. The neural interface doesn't just connect to the blade. It extends human intention beyond physical limitations." A nearby explosion cut the conversation short. The matriarch's expression hardened again. "Impressive party tricks won't stop Technarch enforcers. We need conventional tactics now. Mysticism later." "You're wrong," Saria insisted with newfound confidence. "What Marcus has taught me isn't mysticism. It's the true potential of our own technology. Give us a chance to prove it." Before the matriarch could respond, a tribal scout rushed up to the platform. "The Technarch commander has arrived at the North Gate. They're demanding surrender and assimilation." The matriarch's face grew grim. "Typical. They send infiltrators first, then demand peaceful surrender once they've weakened us." She turned to Saria and Marcus. "Very well. You claim to understand the Technarch and our technology better than we do. Prove it. You have my authority to engage the commander, but if you fail, the blame for what follows will be yours alone." As they hurried toward the North Gate, Marcus explained his plan. "Technarch commanders are enhanced humans with direct neural links to their AI overlords. They're essentially avatars, biological extensions of the artificial intelligence. How does that help us? Saria asked, as they navigated through the chaos. Their neural systems are more sophisticated than human minds in some ways, but less adaptable. They expect conventional resistance, weapons, explosives, EMP devices. They don't expect what you can now do. The North Gate loomed ahead, partially damaged from the initial assault. Beyond it stood the Technarch delegation, a dozen enforcer drones flanking a tall figure in gleaming white armor. The commander's face was partially visible through a transparent faceplate, revealing unnaturally pale skin and eyes that glowed with internal circuitry. People of the Cinnabar tribe, the commander's voice boomed, artificially amplified. Your resistance is illogical and ultimately futile. The Technarch offers integration, purpose, advancement. Surrender your neural technology and accept assimilation into our collective. Saria and Marcus approached the gate, tribal warriors parting to let them through. The commander's glowing eyes fixed on them. We reject your offer, Saria called out, her blade held loosely at her side. The Cinnabar tribe remains free. The commander's expression didn't change. His emotions were likely regulated by his AI connection, but his posture shifted subtly. Freedom is inefficient, your tribal structure wasteful, your technology primitive. He gestured, and the enforcer drones moved forward. Surrender or be subdued. B. Marcus leaned close to Saria. Remember the third principle. His neural link is his strength, but also his vulnerability. When I engage the drones, you focus on the commander. Before Saria could respond, Marcus launched into action, moving with the same fluid grace he'd taught her. He darted among the enforcer drones. He carried no visible weapon. Yet wherever he touched a drone, its movements became erratic, systems failing. The commander's eyes narrowed. Interesting. Southern Coalition neural disruption techniques. He raised a hand, and a pulse weapon materialized from his armor's forearm compartment. Outdated and ineffective against current Technarch protocols. As he fired at Marcus, Saria made her move. Rather than attacking physically, she established a meditative focus, extending her awareness through her neural interface toward the commander's systems. The sensation was disorienting, like plunging into a cold, mechanically ordered mindscape. The commander's neural link was vastly more complex than the training cube, a labyrinth of artificial pathways intertwined with organic brain function. Physically, Saria appeared to be simply standing still, blade lowered, eyes closed. The commander initially ignored her, focusing on Marcus's more obvious threat. This was her advantage. Following the water principle, Saria didn't attempt to overpower or control the commander's systems. Instead, she identified the flow of information, the constant stream of data between his human brain and the AI network, and introduced a subtle disruption, a ripple in the otherwise perfect flow. The effect was immediate. The commander staggered, his weapon fire going wide. What? Interference detected. Recalibrating. His voice fluctuated between human tones and mechanical distortion. Encouraged. Saria deepened her focus. Rather than attacking randomly, she searched for patterns in the neural architecture, identifying nodes where human and artificial systems intersected. These junctions were surprisingly vulnerable, designed for efficient data transfer rather than security. Meanwhile, Marcus continued his dance among the enforcer drones, touching each briefly before moving to the next. The drone's coordinated assault pattern deteriorated into individual, uncoordinated actions. Impossible, the commander gasped, visibly struggling to maintain control. Tribal neural tech is non-compatible with Technarch systems. You misunderstand our technology, Saria replied, maintaining her focus. It doesn't seek to control. It seeks to harmonize. Your systems only understand domination, which makes them brittle. With a final push of concentrated intention, Saria targeted the central connection point between the commander's organic brain and artificial enhancements, not to sever or destroy, but to temporarily desynchronize, like introducing discordant notes into a perfect harmony. The commander collapsed to his knees, his armor systems flickering. Around him, the enforcer drones froze in place, their connection to command control severed. Marcus was immediately at Saria's side, supporting her, as the mental effort left her momentarily weakened. "Now," he urged. "While the connection is disrupted, talk to him, the human part of him." Saria approached the kneeling commander, whose eyes now flickered between artificial glow and natural human color. "Your AI masters don't understand us because they cannot understand choice," she said. "They see our independence as inefficiency, because they cannot calculate the value of freedom." The commander's expression shifted, humanity briefly visible through the technological mask. "The collective provides purpose, certainty, at the cost of everything that makes us human," Marcus interjected. "The capacity to choose, to change, to evolve on our own terms." For a moment, the commander seemed to struggle internally, the human consciousness fighting for control. Then, with visible effort, he reached up and removed his helmet completely, revealing a face that might once have been ordinary before Technarch modifications. "The link is re-establishing," he warned, voice strained. "I cannot maintain independence for long." "Then tell us what we need to know," Saria pressed. "Why does the Technarch want our territory specifically? There are easier conquests elsewhere." "Your neural technology," the man gasped, fighting for each word. "It's different. Adaptive rather than directive. The collective sees it as both threat and opportunity. If integrated, could revolutionize their control systems. Or undermine them," Marcus suggested. "If human intention can influence Technarch systems through your neural interface." The commander nodded painfully. "Precisely why. They fear it, must control, or destroy." His eyes began to glow more steadily again, the AI reasserting control. "Withdrawing forces. Temporary strategic reassessment." The mechanical tone returned to his voice. "This encounter, unexpected variables, requires analysis." With surprising grace, the commander rose to his feet, systems reactivating. "The Technarch will return. Prepare accordingly." He turned and walked stiffly back toward the waiting Technarch transport, the frozen enforcer drones suddenly reactivating and following him. As the Technarch forces retreated, cheers erupted from the watching tribal warriors. The immediate threat had passed, but Saria felt no triumph. The commander's words suggested this was merely a reprieve, not a victory. The matriarch approached, her expression unreadable. "It seems your water principle has some merit after all." She nodded to Marcus. "The council will want a full briefing on what just occurred." "What occurred," Marcus explained, "was the first demonstration that Technarch systems are vulnerable to the true potential of your neural interface technology." Saria didn't just fight the commander. She influenced his systems using pure intention, channeled through her neural connection. Crimson's eyes widened slightly. "If what you say is true, this changes everything about our defensive strategy." "It changes everything about your tribe's future," Marcus corrected. "The techniques I've shown Saria are just the beginning. Your ancestors understood that technology should amplify humanity, not replace it. That philosophy, combined with your neural interface system, offers a genuine alternative to the Technarch paradigm." The matriarch considered this, then turned to Saria. "You've exceeded expectations, Blade Dancer. The council will want to hear your perspective on these developments." As tribal warriors began the process of securing the encampment and assessing damage, Saria found herself in an unexpected position. 3 days ago, she had been disgraced, her skills questioned, her future uncertain. Now she stood as perhaps the tribe's most valuable asset against an existential threat. The following days were a blur of activity. The council sessions stretched for hours as Marcus shared everything he knew about Technarch systems and strategies. Meanwhile, Saria began training other blade dancers in the principles she had learned, starting with the most receptive younger warriors. Not everyone embraced the new approach. Many elder blade dancers resisted, seeing the techniques as corruptions of sacred traditions. The matriarch herself remained cautiously supportive, but clearly uncomfortable with how quickly centuries of tribal practice were being questioned. A week after the Technarch encounter, Saria found Marcus at the edge of the plateau, watching the sunset paint the desert crimson. "The council has finished deliberating," she informed him. "They've granted you provisional tribal membership in recognition of your service." Marcus nodded, seemingly unsurprised. "And you? Have they restored your status as blade dancer?" "More than that." Saria couldn't keep the pride from her voice. "I've been appointed to lead a new division, Neural Integration Specialists. We'll be focusing exclusively on developing applications of the principles you taught me." "Good." His satisfaction seemed genuine. "Your tribe has the potential to become more than just another resistance group. You could develop a truly alternative approach to technology, one that enhances human potential rather than replacing it." Something in his tone caught Saria's attention. "You speak as though you won't be part of it." Marcus continued gazing at the horizon. "I've done what I came to do, shared what I know. The rest is up to your people." "You're leaving?" It wasn't a question. "There are other tribes, other groups who need this knowledge." He turned to face her. "The Technarch's greatest advantage is their unity of purpose. If humanity is to offer a viable alternative, we need to build connections between the free territories, share knowledge, develop compatible systems." Saria felt an unexpected pang of something. Disappointment, concern. In just 10 days, this strange outsider had transformed her understanding of herself, her tribe, her very connection to her blade. The thought of him simply walking away seemed wrong somehow. "The matriarch would grant you resources, escorts," she offered. "Your knowledge is too valuable to risk losing if you're captured or killed out there." "I've survived this long," he reminded her with a slight smile. "Besides, I work better alone, less conspicuous. At least, take this." Saria unsheathed her secondary blade, smaller than her primary weapon but equally well-crafted. "Its neural interface is compatible with the techniques you've taught me. It might prove useful." Marcus accepted the blade with appropriate reverence. "A generous gift. I'll use it well." They stood in silence for a moment, the desert wind tugging at their clothes. Finally, Saria asked the question that had bothered her since their first encounter. "That day in the canyon, you could have killed me easily when you disarmed me. Why didn't you?" "Because I saw someone fighting herself as much as her enemies," he replied. "Someone with extraordinary potential being limited by rigid thinking." His expression softened slightly. "Someone worth teaching rather than defeating." The next morning, Marcus was gone. No formal farewell, no ceremony, just absent from his assigned quarters, with only a simple note. "Remember the 3 principles. The water finds its path." Saria stood at the main gate, watching the empty desert as dawn broke over the red landscape. In her hand, she held her primary blade differently now, not as a symbol of status or a tool of destruction, but as a partner in whatever challenges lay ahead. The Technarch would return, perhaps with new systems designed to counter what they had encountered. The tribe would need to evolve continuously to survive, abandoning the rigidity that had defined them for generations. It would be a difficult transition, filled with resistance and setbacks. But for the first time, Saria felt genuine hope, not just for survival, but for a future where humanity controlled its technological destiny rather than being controlled by it. She thought of Marcus's words about water finding its path and smiled. The journey ahead would be challenging, the obstacles numerous. But like water, they would find a way forward, not through force, but through adaptation, patience, and the unstoppable power of flowing together toward a common purpose. Saria raised her blade, feeling the neural connection hum with newfound clarity. Now, she whispered to herself, I'm holding it right.